Empires rise and fall, but few places have humbled them like Afghanistan, the graveyard of empires. In the late 20th and early 21st centuries, both the Soviet Union and the United States waged long, costly wars here, only to leave in defeat. The Soviets invaded with confidence, but after a decade of resistance, they withdrew, battered, and broken. The US entered after 9/11, seeking justice but found itself trapped in a two-decade conflict ending in chaos. Afghanistan's geography, mountains, valleys, and porous borders became a weapon against outsiders. Both superpowers underestimated the complexity of Afghan society and the fierce desire for independence. The real cost was paid by Afghans generations grew up amid war, their country shattered. The dreams of reshaping Afghanistan became nightmares of instability and suffering. This is a cautionary tale about the limits of military power and the dangers of foreign intervention. The story begins with one empire's fateful decision to invade, setting off a chain of global consequences. In December 1979, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, aiming to prop up a friendly regime. They expected a quick victory, but instead faced fierce resistance from the Mujahideen, local fighters united by faith and a drive to expel invaders. The Soviets' advanced weaponry was no match for guerrilla tactics and the unforgiving terrain. The war dragged on for nearly a decade, draining the Soviet economy and morale. Over 1 million Afghans died, millions more became refugees, and 15,000 Soviet soldiers never returned home. By the late 1980s, the Soviets realized the war was unwinnable. Gorbachev called Afghanistan a bleeding wound and ordered a full withdrawal in 1989. The occupation achieved none of its goals, leaving Afghanistan devastated and the Soviet Union weakened. The war's cost contributed to the Soviet Empire's collapse just a few years later. Instead of stability, the invasion left chaos, radicalized fighters, and a broken nation. Afghanistan had once again humbled a superpower. The world watched as the consequences rippled outward, but another superpower was already shaping the conflict from the shadows. While the Soviets fought openly, the United States waged a covert war, Operation Cyclone, arming and funding the Mujahideen through the CIA. Billions in aid, funneled with help from Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, transformed the resistance. The game-changer Stinger missiles, which allowed the Mujahideen to shoot down Soviet helicopters. The US strategy bled the Soviets but also empowered radical groups. When the Soviets withdrew, America declared victory and walked away, leaving Afghanistan awash in weapons and warlords. The US had no plan for the aftermath. The country descended into chaos with radicalized fighters and a power vacuum. The seeds of future conflict were sown. America's shadow war had unintended far-reaching consequences. Afghanistan was left to pick up the pieces. The Soviet withdrawal didn't bring peace, it unleashed civil war. Mujahideen factions, once united, turned on each other, carving up Afghanistan into warlord fiefdoms. Kabul became a battlefield. Ordinary Afghans suffered even more. Infrastructure collapsed, and lawlessness reigned. Amid the chaos, a new force emerged: the Taliban, religious students promising order and strict Islamic law. Exhausted by war, many Afghans welcomed them. The Taliban quickly seized power, capturing Kabul in 1996. Their regime was brutally repressive. Women were banned from public life, and harsh punishments became routine. The Taliban ended the civil war in their territory, but at the cost of freedom and isolation. Afghanistan became one of the world's most oppressive states. The world watched, but few intervened. A new, even greater threat was brewing within its borders. Afghanistan became a magnet for foreign fighters during the Soviet war, among them Osama bin Laden, who founded al-Qaeda. After the Soviets left, al-Qaeda's focus shifted to global jihad, targeting the West. The Taliban gave bin Laden sanctuary, turning Afghanistan into a terrorist haven. From here, al-Qaeda launched attacks on US embassies and the USS Cole. The world's attention sharpened after September 11, 2001, when al-Qaeda operatives, trained in Afghanistan, struck the US, killing nearly 3,000 people. The US demanded the Taliban hand over bin Laden. They refused. America invaded, toppling the Taliban in weeks. But the mission expanded from counterterrorism to nation-building. The US found itself mired in the same trap as the Soviets, an occupying power in a fractured land. The war dragged on, with no easy exit. Afghanistan's cycle of conflict continued. The graveyard of empires claimed another victim. The world was left to reckon with the fallout. Afghanistan's story echoes in other great power conflicts: Vietnam, Iraq, Syria, Ukraine. Superpowers, armed with advanced technology, repeatedly underestimate local resistance and the complexity of foreign lands. Wars meant to be quick become quagmires, draining resources and costing countless lives. Power vacuums breed extremism and chaos, as seen with ISIS after Iraq and Al-Qaeda after Afghanistan. Proxy wars prolong suffering, and the true cost is paid by ordinary people. For strategists, these are moves on a chessboard. For civilians, they are life and death. The lesson is clear: empires may chase glory, but it's the people who pay the ultimate price. Afghanistan remains a stark warning, a graveyard not just of empires, but of hope for peace.